Drivers in Waterloo will have to watch their speed a little more closely going forward with new speed limits now in place. Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe has described it as one of the top concerns for residents in her city. And for more on those concerns, we're joined now by Mayor McCabe. Thanks for the time this afternoon. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here to talk about this.
Great. So let's talk about this. Where did this, I understand the idea at first was just to bring the blanket speed limits down to, I think, was it 30 kilometers per hour, like on almost all the streets here. You've come to a kind of compromise. How did you reach that compromise, and what do these speed limits mean now?
So thanks for the question. And I think this is an issue that's not just in Waterloo, but I think it's one that probably my colleagues in cities across Ontario face. And when I say it's the number one issue, this has been the number one issue for years. Someone who was the mayor 20 years ago had told me that this was an issue when she was in office. So it's something that's been long-standing. But previous council had gone through a process and determined that and landed at having not all the streets at 30 kilometers, but the side streets, the streets where you start your journey and you end your journey. Those were the streets that we were looking at, primarily targeting with the 30 kilometer an hour rate. The minor and major collectors would be at 40 and 50 respectively. So that's what the goal was.
Interesting. Now, what's the reaction been like? Because we actually got a lot of viewer feedback from this morning on CP24 Breakfast, asking people about this. And the one thing that came up time and time again was, why not just enforce the speed limits more effectively, thereby not necessarily needing to reduce them? I'm sure you heard that argument. What do you say to that?
Well, yeah, and the enforcement side is really necessary. And so I would say this is the speed limit, and posting the speed limit is one piece of an overall road safety program. And part of posting the speed limit in our city and in any other city is to start a bit more of that culture change, so that people start to think of the need to slow down. There's a lot of other elements to it as well. Enforcement is challenging. I mean, actually, it's just simply not possible to have police or any of our bylaw officers out at any of the hundreds of streets that we have across our community. But I would say what we are looking at a regional government level in the next year or so is increasing the amount of automated speed cameras at various places, particularly at school zones.
Yeah, we certainly see a lot of those in Toronto, and they certainly rack up a lot of revenue indeed. Only have about 30 seconds left, Mayor, but what about redesigning roads? Is that part of this plan as well, to try to narrow them or put in bollards, et cetera, to try to create that sort of feeling of less space available for drivers?
Absolutely. As I said, the speed limit part is one piece of an overall road strategy. So as roads do get reconstructed, we are repaved, we will look at other ways, and they could be ways to beautify the community. They could be, bump outs with some planting or things like that. That will, because you're right, absolutely right, Nick. The point is that we need to narrow those streets so that drivers will ultimately slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, it's really fascinating, and again, generated a ton of reaction here on CP24 Breakfast. Mayor Dorothy McCabe from Waterloo. Appreciate the time this afternoon. Thanks for being here.